Hello, everybody. Wanted to share something with you tonight. This is my Meren of Clan Nel Toth EDH slash Commander deck. This is actually going to be our second time talking about this particular deck on the channel. Wanted to basically do an update, show you the changes that I've made, let you see the cards that I've added, things I've taken out, and discuss where to go from here. Because as I discussed in my last video, I actually won our the pod, our commander table, 4 players. I knocked everybody out, and to be honest, I'm sitting here thinking to myself, how exactly did that happen? Because the deck doesn't exactly work the way I would like it to. My preference would be get creatures into my graveyard and then recur gigantic creatures over and over again. But as it has evolved, I have less and less big creatures, and I seem to have difficulty getting them into the graveyard in order to recur them in I don't know, in a good way. So let me show you what I got, and then let's just kind of have a discussion about it. Let's just talk about it. So Meren of Clan Nel Toth, black and green, so it's a Golgari theme. The way she works is that whenever a creature you control dies, you get an experience counter. Experience counters can't go away; they just work. They're always there as long as you're still in the game. And the way this particular card kind of plays with the experience counters, which are a unique thing to, I think it was Commander 2015, is that at the beginning of your end step, choose target creature card in your graveyard. If that card's converted mana cost is less than or equal to the number of experience counters you have, return to the battlefield. Otherwise, put it into your hand. So no matter what, immediately your first end step, if you have a creature in your graveyard, even if nothing else has died that turn, you get to draw it back into your hand. So that's really kind of cool. The second thing is that if you have enough experience counters, you can essentially recur cards straight to the battlefield. It's great for low-cost cards in the early game, and then late game, that's your goal, is to just constantly bring the big stuff back. And we'll see kind of what targets I have for that later on. So that's the gist of the deck. Get creatures back to the battlefield from the graveyard and take advantage of enter the battlefield effects. So that's the gist of it. But let's kind of go through everything and see what we got going on. So first is the mana base. So we've got four forests. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 swamps. Pretty basic stuff. So first thing, we got a Dryad Arbor. This is a new addition from one of my Profit or Loss videos. Really kind of cool. Mosswort Bridge. This is really kind of cool. So you get essentially one card out of your, I think it's top 4, right? Yeah, top 4 cards. You look at them and you exile one of them face down, and rest go on the bottom of your library. And then once you get to 10 power for a green and tap, you get to play the card. Really cool, especially when you get some of the larger cards, higher casting cost cards that are in the deck. So that's really kind of neat. Slippery Karst and Tranquil Thicket, these are used just for cycling. So early game, I can play them for mana, or late game, I'm just cycling them out. Urborg, Tomb of Yawgmoth, just to make everything tap for black. Bojuka Bog, just in case somebody else is also taking advantage of their graveyard. Just very versatile card. It's one of those Swiss Army knife type cards. You never leave home without it. Dakmor Salvage. This is it's in here specifically to dredge. It's hopefully get it into the graveyard, dredge more things into the graveyard. Barren Moor and Polluted Mire, again cycling. That's all that is. We have Evolving Wilds in order to get basic land out of the deck. Same with Verdant Catacombs, but this can get something a little bit better out. I can get either a Bayou or something else like that. Command Tower, because you just have to have it. Bayou, of course. Blooming Marsh. Tainted Wood. City of Brass. Overgrown Tomb. Woodland Cemetery. Temple of Malady. Exotic Orchard, because most of the time I'm able to get one or the other. A lot of times in a multiplayer game I'm getting both, so that works out pretty well. Jungle Hollow, I'd like to find a replacement for this, but haven't yet. Llanowar Wastes, Rogue's Passage. Again, this is just here to be able to sneak a creature in for damage. High Market, it's basically just a sacrifice outlet to try to feed more tokens or more experience counters from Meren. Strip Mine, just in case somebody has something really annoying that I need to get rid of. Mishra's Factory. This I'm not entirely sold on. It hasn't come up really in any games, and it hasn't been overly useful. Or there hasn't been a situation where I'm like, man, I wish I had a Mishra's Factory. But I don't know. Maybe some situation will happen where it would be nice to have had it. And then throw into the High City, basically just to become the Monarch. Once the game is under control, if I need to be able to draw more cards, being able to sacrifice that late game, become the Monarch, is very advantageous. So, additional mana ramp, Soul Ring, because Soul Ring, Birds of Paradise, Expedition Map. The reason I love this card is that it's any land card. I also have a Maze of Ith in here, and being able to go search for it is really, really nice in those rare instances where you have to get it. Sakura Tribe Elder, basically just, it's a sack outlet, which helps with the experience counters, and then goes and gets me a land. Search for Tomorrow. Basalt Monolith, again, mana ramp. Commander Sphere, and the Golgari Key Rune. Alright, other just sort of random stuff. We've got our Lightning Greaves. We've got a Skull Clamp, which, again, this is just draw, kills creatures, because I got a lot of low toughness creatures in here. Demonic Tutor, because you have to have it. And Diabolic Tutor, same logic. For board wipes, we've got Black Sun Zenith. In Garrick's Wake, which has the advantage of also getting rid of Planeswalkers. And Damnation, which I just picked up recently. For targeted removal, we've got Putrefy, which also gets rid of artifacts, which is nice. Abrupt Decay. It's always nice when it can't be countered. Hero's Downfall is awesome because it also gets rid of Planeswalkers. Sever the Bloodline serves two purposes. One, you've got Exile, plus it can flashback, which is nice, but also it can wipe out a board full of tokens, since it gets rid of any cards with the same, or any creatures with the same name. Maze of Ith, which I already talked about. Wretched Confluence, very, very versatile card. Same with Profane Command, very versatile. This one I'm not sold on yet. Sorin's Vengeance. My logic behind it is that we get a lot of games where you get one person who's almost dead, but no one wants to swing in and do a couple more damage, so you always end up with someone right around 10 life, or just a little bit above it. My thought process is that this essentially allows you to take somebody out, but hasn't quite worked out that way yet. And then Worst Fears, because this card's just broken. Of course, we have Planeswalkers, both Liliana. Liliana Vest, because it plays into our getting creatures out of graveyards. And then Liliana the Veil, just because she does allow you to go after creatures a little bit, and also makes everybody discard cards. And we like discarding large creatures, because then we can recur them for much cheaper. Going along that same route, we've got Grizzly Salvage, which again, the purpose of this is simply to get stuff into our graveyard that we can recur. Green Sun Zenith, basically a green tutor. Birthing Pod, which feeds into that sacrifice engine in order to build up our tokens, or excuse me, our experience counters. And Selvala Stampede, because this is broken. Because no matter what, you're getting very good advantage out of this. Next, we have our actual cards, our recursion cards that we're getting stuff out of our graveyard. We got Regrowth, Victimize, which also feeds into the sacrifice outlet. Ever After, because it gets us two of them. Zombify. Dread Return has the advantage of having flashback. Diabolic Servitude, Animate Dead, one of the best cards for this in the game. Living Death, and then Rise of the Dark Realms, which, again, at this stage of the game when you're playing this, it's essentially broken. And then Wake the Dead, just as a combat trick. And then for creatures, this is where I'm having issues. So we'll just go through, everything serves different purposes, but we'll go through based on mana cost. So we got Spore Frog, which is there just as a fog effect. Caustic Caterpillar, again, a sacrifice engine for the experience counters, and it lets you get rid of artifacts and enchantments. Golgari Thug, he exists just to dredge. We've got our Hex Mage, which, again, this goes after if you happen to get a Planeswalker you need to deal with. That's what she's there for. Satyr Wayfinder, again, this is getting cards into your graveyard. Skullwinder, this is getting, again, cards out of your graveyard. Fleshbag Marauder, very useful against Narset, just in case you run into one of those type of decks. Stinkweed Imp, again, here just for the dredge. Merciless Executioner does the same thing as the Fleshbag Marauder. Reclamation Sage, again, you're destroying artifacts and enchantments when he enters the battlefield. Eternal Witness is getting you cards back. Soulmouth Simulacrum is, this guy just should be in every EDH deck, I think, at this point. Sidisi, again, allows you to sacrifice a creature for your experience counters, and you get to tutor, so that's kind of nice. Acidic Slime has a great enter the battlefield effect. Very, very devastating. Brutalizer Exarch, very useful. You can get rid of a permanent and put it on in a library, which is really nice. Very, very useful card. Yeah, surprisingly useful. And also the second ability, well, actually the first. Search your library for a creature card, reveal it, shuffle your library, put it on top. Nice, but I tend to use the second ability more often. Massacre Worm, this can be really useful against a token deck. Kokusho, basically just a black card with value, because if you have a 4 or 5 player game, you're gaining quite a bit of life with that. Reaper from the Abyss, awesome, awesome, awesome ability. Now this has to happen, so there are times where you have to target your own creatures, but that's perfectly fine. Avenger of Zendikar, we've got plenty of land, so that landfall ability tends to happen. Only ever gotten him out in one game, and it was awesome when things just started rolling with him. Runescar Demon, basically just a tutor. Sepulchral Primordial, this is letting me play with people's graveyards and getting their best creature out. Really nice. Shieldred, because she is amazing. And then the Woodfall Primus. This is our big guy. Destroying target non-creature permanent, and he has Persist, so he sticks around pretty well. So that's the deck. Again, it doesn't do exactly what I wanted, which was getting huge creatures. Because the reality is we only have, nothing's bigger than a 6/6. Yeah, nothing's bigger than a 6/6. And that, yeah, it's basically just these guys. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Basically, I have 8 creatures. Less than 10% of the deck is these big guys, and they all kind of do something a little different. So there's not a lot of synergy here, other than when they all have entered the battlefield effects, which are very useful, or they're forcing other people to get rid of cards. So I don't know. Again, we've had some success here lately with the deck. I really, really like it. It's a lot of fun. It tends not to be a huge target, just because there are some pretty crazy decks out there now, but people know what it is. You play Meren, everyone knows what your goal is, so you tend to be targeted by Bojuka Bogs, was it Tormod's Crypt, that kind of, or Relic of Progenitus. Those type of things tend to target you a little bit more than anybody else. But I don't know. Give me your thoughts. Am I missing anything from here? Is there some card that I should be using instead of some of these others? Or is there a completely different direction I should be taking this deck? I've seen tokens with the Meren deck. I've seen recurring sacrifice cards. So you're trying to sacrifice a lot of cards in order to take advantage of something like Blood Artist. But I don't know. There's a lot of options here, but my goal of what I was looking for is big creatures getting recurred out of graveyards. That's what I wanted to do. It does it okay, but it's winning, so I guess I can't complain too much. Let me know your thoughts. What should I switch out? What should I change? Should I do something totally different with the deck? Are there any cards in here that you're like, what the heck is that doing in there? Let me know in the comments below. Give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down, whichever you prefer. And don't forget my Patreon. We're going to be giving away most likely a couple of booster packs at the $3 level. Since our profit or loss videos for this month, there hasn't been any value in any of them at this point. So so far, it's looking like we'll be giving away a couple of booster packs instead of instead of the profit or loss cards. So again, thank you so much for watching. Always appreciate you guys taking the time to respond, and especially giving me feedback on these commander decks, because they definitely help me improve my standings on Tuesday nights when we're playing up there at Wizards Asylum. So all right guys, thank you so much. We'll see you next time.